Welcome to another episode of Expand the Business, the intersection of transaction and transformation, where we help you multiply your efforts into results. My name is Bijal, your host for today, and we have a very special guest and kind of a subject close to my heart. It's really about parenting and teens. So first of all, Renee, welcome to the show.
Thank you, Bijal. I'm so glad to be here.
So Renee Sineg, she's a mentor for parents and teenagers. She's been in the teaching field for over 18 years, and she's seen a lot of problems throughout her many years of teaching, interacting with kids and parents alike. Renee works with parents today to help them feel more confident, motivated, and engaged. Renee, so I'm going to start off with the very first question. Why did you want to choose to work with teens? Of all the of all the age groups on the planet, you may have picked one of the most challenging of all. So what was your motivation?
Yeah, I know. I hear that a lot. Well, as you said, Bijal, I spent 18 years in the classroom. So I have had thousands of conversations with teenagers and their parents. And one of the things that I saw year after year was that so many teenagers have so much potential, but they don't see it in themselves. They look at themselves through a very small lens. And if things aren't going well, it's really easy for teens to fall into like that victim mode. Like, why should I even try? And as a parent, when you have a teenager that's struggling with maybe it's school, low motivation, they're not going to class, they're failing, lack of self-esteem, all of that. Generally, if your child is really struggling, you will take them to the doctor. And that's a great first step. But if that's not what your child needs, and if they don't get the help that they need, which is different from every child, a lot of teenagers fall through the cracks. They just give up because they don't feel seen, they don't feel heard, they don't feel valued, they don't think anyone understands them. And I think it's just so imperative for parents today to know that there's other options available. So when you go to the doctor, when your teen's struggling, which I said it's a great first step, it's exactly what you should do. Generally, what doctors are talking about are therapy or pills. And for some kids, that's exactly what they need, but it isn't the answer for every child. And it wasn't what our child needed. I have 3 kids. One of them was the kid that falls through the cracks. And we did the therapy route, we did the pill route, and it didn't work for him. So that's really it's really important for me that parents understand that if you go to the doctor and those are your options and they aren't working, do your research because there's other options available. And it's just about finding out what works for your child.
Would it be fair to say that the therapy route, the traditional therapy route and the pill route is really treating the symptoms that emerge much later on in this challenge, right? As a father of now my older daughter, she's 20, my younger one is 15. So, one's kind of phased out of this teenage years and one's in the heart of these teenage years. But we do see through her friend circle, a lot of what you're talking about, everything from teenagers not being really motivated, not being clear about what they want in the future, and it kind of like losing a little bit of hope, especially in this era right now. And if you just look at the symptoms, as you said, it's therapy and pills, right? So as a parent, what do you advise in terms of attempting to understand the core issues that lead to the behaviors that we often will see with teenagers?
Right. So, and that it's getting to the root of what the issue is. And as I said, for some kids, they need therapy. Some kids have deep psychological wounds or trauma or like physical disorders, like eating disorders, or those kids need therapy. Therapists are medical professionals, right? I can't help them with that. But there's other kids that they're just stuck. They're stuck dealing with typical teen stuff. And if those kids go into therapy, sometimes it's detrimental because they don't want to be there. I have a friend whose son was in therapy. He didn't want to go to therapy. And so he shut down. So he needed help, but he didn't get it because that to him, it seemed like he was broken, right? And really he was just confused. He was just stuck with the typical teen stuff. So for parents, it's about figuring out what your child needs. And again, start with a daughter, because maybe your child does have some deep psychological wounds or trauma or things that need healed with a medical professional. But understand that you have options too, and your child best. And so maybe that isn't the route. Maybe it just doesn't feel right to you, but you don't know what else to do. And that's what this is about, figuring out, because you really do. You need to figure out what is the root. And for that goes into a whole other area of just communication. Like if your child is angry, they're angry for a reason. What is the reason? Kids just don't wake up angry. Something's going on, but you're the parent. They might not open up to you. That doesn't mean they need a therapist. And that's kind of where the mentor coach can be a really powerful alternative that a lot of parents just don't know exists.
So let's talk about that, because you helped your son, or your son was helped by a mentor coach, and
Yes.
it was transformational for him. And
Yes.
now that's the kind of role that you now play for many parents and teens. But can you kind of share for those people who are not familiar with the role of a coach and mentor for teenagers, say versus business or life coaching? How does it differ, or is it very much the same? Can you shed some light on that, please?
Yeah, for sure. So mentor and coaching, it is different than therapy. So when you go to a therapist, they're medical professionals. So if you have a teen going to a therapist, they're going to deal with psychological wounds, trauma, deep-seated anxiety, disorders, things like that. That's not what I do. So as a mentor or a coach for teenagers, how it's different from therapy is we take where you are right now as the perfect starting point. So it's not about figuring out the past. It's about where you are right now. Where do you want to go? And I deal with teenagers that are struggling, but they're mentally healthy. They're not broken. They're just confused and they're having trouble dealing the typical teen stuff like anger, motivation, lack of self-esteem, engagement, just being engaged in life. So many kids are like just stuck in their video games. They're just not engaged in life or social media. And so it's about helping them to find a purpose and figure out where you are now, where do you want to go, and like what's in your way. What are the stories? A lot of teenagers tell themselves stories. They just and they're literally stories, but to them they're true. It's kind of true versus truth. What's true for them, whether or not it's the actual truth, is how they're going to behave. So it's really about a big shift in perspective. Where are you now? Where do you want to go? Coaching is very much forward progress. And, where you are now is a great starting point. It doesn't really matter how you got here. Like we can kind of touch on that, but we're not going to live there, because the bottom line is where you are right now today, this second, is where you are right now today, the second. So what do you want tomorrow to look like? Right? It's a choice. You can choose to just kind of like go through and fall victim to the circumstances, or you can say, okay, yeah, like it's been tough to get here, and my life to this point has not been ideal, but I want to change it. Those are the kids that I work with and that are the most successful, that you want to change it and you're willing to accept that maybe my life isn't perfect and it's not as good, because they do so much comparing. They see like this person has this and this person has this, and maybe they grew up with not a lot of money or not a lot of stuff. But where you are right now is where you are right now. And so it's kind of helping them shift that perspective. Where do you want to go? And what obstacles are in the way? What stories are you telling yourself? What beliefs are holding you back? So many kids will be like, none of my parents went to college, so I'm not going to go to college. I could never do that. Or, I'm not pretty enough, or I don't have enough money. And those are all stories. So it's really about a shift in perspective. And it's so powerful because it's a moment in time. Right? Where you wake up today. I just think that's so powerful. Where you are today right now is where you are today. We can shift that.
One of my mentors once, put it like this, we are the chapter we've just lived, the chapter story that we're in right now, and the chapter that we still get to write next,
Yeah.
A lot of kids have kind of forgotten that they still get to write that chapter, versus that the chapter is written for them by their parents, by society, by the media, by what's going on. And I think, giving teens, especially that realization that no, you still get to hold that pen and write that chapter. I love that. Now I know that you've authored a book on leadership. Can you tell us more about the book on leadership and how it ties into the work you do?
Yes, I did. I wrote a book. I have it right here. It's just called The Little Black Book of Leadership. It's an A to Z guide to leadership in life and business. So when I was going through the process of receiving my coaching certification, I was still teaching at the time, but I really started to realize the power of self leadership, because I was still in the classroom and I was kind of going through this at the same time, I was kind of looking at my students in a new light, and really realized the lack of leadership and self-leadership that so many teenagers have. But not only teenagers, truly, it's like so many parents and adults, they just don't have that self-leadership. Bruce D. Schneider, he is the founder of the Institute for Professional Excellence in Coaching, but he has a quote that says, everybody is a leader, either by choice or by default. And I think about that quote like almost every day, because it's just so powerful. Like, everyone is a leader, whether you're a CEO or a student or a teacher or a parent. And not only that, we're all really leaders in multiple roles, right? I'm a leader as a mom, a little bit less so now because my kids are older, but I'm a leader as a mom. I was a leader as a teacher. I'm a leader as a business owner. So we're all leaders in all these different roles. And so with the book, it was very strange, truly, because I taught math. So I'm not a writer. It's not like I was an English teacher. I was a math teacher, high school math. But I woke up one Sunday morning with the idea of this book, like literally woke up with the idea of this book. And my husband and daughter and I were going skiing. So as we were driving to the mountains, I'm like writing these chapters because it's an A to Z guide, just writing the title of them, coming up with it. So it was like so strange for me that even came up. And then, but as I started to think about it, and just like that quote, everyone leads either by choice or by default, it just kind of all fell into place, because truly self-leadership doesn't have to do with how popular you are, how much money you have. It doesn't have to do with your race or your socioeconomic status. Self-leadership, it's how you show up in the world, right? And how you show up in the world in everything you do, every conversation you have, every like situation you're in, how you show up in the world impacts your ability to get the results you desire. And that is a choice. That's self-leadership. So when this book when I first started writing it, it was more, that's kind of when I was like, I'm not going to work with teens, I'm going to work with the business people. But then, that was short-lived. And so I kind of shifted that, no, I want this book for everybody, so it's a leadership guide for life and business, because again, we all lead either by choice or by default. So now with my son who struggled and like put us through the ringer, he grabbed my book, and he's not a reader. As I said, like, he barely passed high school. He fell through the cracks. He was the kid that fell through the cracks. He picked up my book, and I was like, hey, pick a chapter, Nick. And every chapter can be read in less than 10 minutes. And so he went through the contents, and chapter N is non-judgment. And not only did he read it, he went to work and was like telling his boss about it. And I was like, whoa, like, this is my 21-year-old that, struggled in life, and he got something out of it. So it really is a book for everybody. Every chapter is just one word. Like, chapter A is accountability, B is belief, C is communication. Every chapter can be read in less than 10 minutes, which is ideal for especially teenagers, but really everybody in this business world. And then at the end of every chapter, there's just a section called Ask Yourself, which are just a few thought-provoking questions, and a section called Try This, which is something you can try. And so the book is not geared to it's just you have to like read it and then think about your role. Like, for example, if you were reading the chapter on accountability, think about that chapter as your role as a mom, or think about that chapter, you know what I mean? Like, think about, as you're reading it, you kind of have to twist it into the role that you're playing, because we play so many different roles. And my idea is to read just like one chapter a week. So if you're reading the chapter on non-judgment, chapter N, take a whole week and ponder that and see how judgment shows up in your world. Or if you're reading the chapter on accountability, take a whole week and just like think about it. It's because it's important concepts, and it all ties into self-leadership. And as a student, it's applicable. As accountability, are you being accountable to study for the test, right? Are you being accountable to go find a job or show up for your job? Just as important as it is for a CEO or an entrepreneur or a small business owner. So it's a self-leadership book for everybody, from teenagers up to CEOs and everybody in between, because we all lead either by choice or by default. It's a matter of how well we lead.
No, I love that, because, I'm a big believer in simplified concepts, and especially simplified books, because, for as many wonderful books that are out there, very few ever get actually, read. So right. To break down the concepts from a very A to Z, simple 10-minute chapters, you can go through a chapter in 10 minutes. and really kind of, as you said, take that week to really explore that subject, and
Yeah.
and that kind of reminds me of working with my kids. We'd take a homeschooling project when we were traveling for 5 years and pick a theme of the week and just kind of deep dive into that. And sometimes, we were fortunate that we were traveling around the world at the time. So the marine biology came up, or the sea came up. And one of the things that we were studying, and we got to go to Mauritius and actually spend a week diving and stuff. So really, I really like encouraging parents to kind of be much more involved with the kids. Like my daughter says it's best that my dad's my best friend until I screw up, right? Which is that balance between being a parental friend and a parent. And I've seen it on both extremes. I've seen it where there is little connection between parent and teens, and it's two different worlds. God, in my days, I've never listened to that kind of music, or I've never listened to that kind of crap. And I believe that when parents distance themselves like that, they're really kind of pushing their kids away by doing that kind of thing. And then I've seen parents who are trying to be too friendly with the kids, and there isn't that hierarchy that's really important still in a healthy relationship. But I want to touch upon, because a lot of parents will see their teens going through teenage stuff, okay? And it's, it's normal. They'll grow out of it. What do you have to say about that? What do you have to say about it's normal, this behavior will pass? Do you have a different way for parents to kind of think about that and say, maybe do a deeper dive into why that behavior is coming up?
Yeah, well, yeah. And a lot of that is awareness. And I think it depends too. I mean, is your child angry for a couple of days or a week, which could be just typical teen stuff. Maybe they have a breakup. Maybe they're just, have a tough week at school. Or is there like an underlying cause? Is it like getting worse? It's about really being aware of what's going on with their world and in their world and what's normal for them. It's really important to look for the behaviors that change, because maybe then it's something bigger. But and what you said, Bijal, is so true. And I think parents today really struggle with how to parent their kids, because so many parents are working. I know now we're in COVID, so everyone's home, but so many parents were out of the home and they weren't connecting with their kids. And so they wanted to be their kid's friend. I've had so many conversations with parents that they're just like, I don't know what to do. They're failing class. Take away their phone. Like, take away do they have a phone? Do they have it's like I'm telling them how to parent.
This literally just came up in a conversation with another parent. There's a fear that that if I take away my teen's phone, they're gonna hate me, right? They'll never talk to me again. What they do, and I think a lot of parents are almost afraid to take course correction actions, right? What do you say to that? How do you kind of give parents the confidence that sometimes it is vital to step in, even if it means maybe in the short term there's going to be a little bit of kind of, why'd you do that? But sometimes that's what may be required. And it may be a life-changing decision when you look at the whole scope of life.
It is required. It actually is required. Kids need structure, and they want to feel seen, heard, valued, and understood. And when you take something from them, they're going to be mad at you. They're going to slam doors. They're going to yell. But that's your job, right? We're trying to create. We only have these kids for like 18 years, maybe a little bit longer if they go to college. But they're not meant to be our friends when we're supposed to be creating and helping them learn how to be these functional adults in society. And parents are afraid of their teens being mad at them. And I've said to parents many times, so what if they're mad at you? They're going to get over it. They're going to come around and realize you don't have to take their phone and just take it out of anger. Take it and explain why. I'm taking this because, and make them earn it back. You know what I mean? It doesn't have to be conflict. They'll still be mad at you, but explain why you're taking it and stick to your guns and be consistent, because parents also, because they have that fear of not being liked or their kids get mad at them, they'll get manipulated and giving it back. Kids need consistency, and they actually crave it. They crave consistency, maybe not consciously, but subconsciously. Look at kids that have, if you have talked to adults of kids that had no structure, those adults would say, yeah, I got away with everything and it wasn't what I needed. It actually hurt me. Kids need it. They want it. And as a parent, you don't have to be their friend. You will be their friend when they're in their 20s. They're going to come back around. And even if they're mad at you, they're not going to be mad at you forever. Eventually, they're going to want something. So they're going to get all happy and sweet again, right? They're going to want their phone back. They're going to want to go out with their friends. So they're not going to stay mad at you forever. So as a parent, you have to kind of separate and look at it as, and what I tell parents is, when you take their phone, you're giving them a gift. You're literally giving them a gift of accountability, a gift of ownership, helping them, a gift of responsibility. These are gifts that we're giving them, which teens don't see now, but they're imperative to becoming that young adult that can thrive in the world. When kids get away with everything, once they're an adult and they're on their own, they don't know what to do. Then they're in their 20s and they're completely lost, and they've had no structure, and they don't know what responsibility means, and they think the world owes them. You know what I mean? Like, you have to, as a parent, you have to separate that. You don't need to be their friend right now. And it's hard for some parents because they are afraid of that, but it's helping them to see that that's not your role right now. Until they're 18 years old, your role is to parent them. And I love what you said, Bijal, that you're my best friend until I do something wrong. Like, that's fine. You can have that friend relationship, but when they do something wrong, you need to stick to your guns, and you need to get in there and get on them and hold them accountable. Chapter A, hold them accountable for the actions that they made, because it's a gift. It's just like so important for parents to see that, like, you not doing anything is doing them a disservice. Coming down on them and holding them responsible is the biggest gift you could give them in their teen years.
So let's say a parent listening to this, and if someone's watching this and they know of a parent-teen relationship that they might say, you know what, this could need a little of kind of healing, or helping. And the first step is awareness that there's an issue. So what's the next step? If someone's watching this and think, do I really want to look at this kind of coaching, mentoring route? Again, talking to you doesn't mean that they're committing to work with you, but if someone wants to learn more and say, could this help? Could mentoring, coaching help me help my team? What would that next step be, Renee?
Yeah, the next step would be, let's chat. You know what I mean? Let's get on a phone call. Let's have like a 60-minute parent strategy session. No sales. It's like the opposite of sales, because if it's not the right fit, you don't want to work together. It has to be the right fit for the teenager and for the parent. So before I ever work with a teenager, first have a conversation with the parent, then have a conversation with the teen. Because if teen's not bought in, and if they don't want to change, it's not the right time for them. But as a parent, just have the conversation. Don't be afraid to pick up the phone and say, I just want to see what this is all about, because it's about, like I said earlier, it's about figuring out what your child needs. Coaching, mentoring, it might not be what your child needs. Maybe they need therapy. Maybe they don't need anything. Maybe it's something they can work through. But if they're really struggling, it's about figuring out, it's different for every child. And rather than have your kid fall through the cracks, if I had known what I knew now, like, our son spent years in therapy, probably 3 or 4 years in therapy, going every week. And he liked it because it was an adult to talk to that wasn't us, right? So it was enjoyable for him to have someone to talk to. But as I said, it didn't change any behavior. It didn't move the needle. It didn't take him from point A to point B. In fact, he went off the rails while he was in therapy, because it wasn't the answer for him. It wasn't, he was mentally healthy. And so he didn't need therapy. He needed someone to take his hand, take him by the reins, to be in his corner, to be his biggest cheerleader, and to move the needle forward. And it wasn't until he had that kind of relationship, that he shifted his entire perspective. And so that's the difference between coaching and therapy. So yeah, I say pick up the phone, have the conversation. You're in control of saying no, right? You can just say, no, I don't want this. But as a parent, like, just learn what's out there and learn the options. Maybe it's not even coaching. Maybe you want to try essential oils. I know people that have tried that, but figure out what your child needs, and know that coaching and mentoring, it's powerful for teenagers. And for the right teenager, it's exactly what they need. And it's life-changing for the right candidate.
I love that. Thank you so much for sharing that. This may be one of the most important interviews I've done because, again, as a parent of teenagers or 18 right now, and someone who's just gone through the teenage years, I was a little bit fortunate, and I was fortunate because I spent 20 odd years in personal development.
Mhm.
My older daughter, which is now 17 years ago, was about 2 or 3 years old. We took parenting classes, and
Mhm.
this kind of really helped us.
Yeah.
And most parents, we don't get the blueprint of how to be
Yeah.
good parents, right? We don't get the
Right.
blueprint of how to help our kids through the teenage years. And to think that it'll just happen. People, they'll just go through these teenage years, they'll be fine. I think it's kind of a little bit harsh here, kind of a bit ignorant, in many ways, because people don't know they actually have a choice. Most people don't even think about, oh, let me go call up a kind of a teen coach and mentor and let them help me help my child, right?
Right.
We're oblivious to the tools, to the people, to systems and methodologies that really
Mhm.
can help and are proven by someone like yourself. Thank you for kind of bringing that subject to light for us.
Yeah. Thanks.
And
Thanks. It is. It's so, and it's a different world. Parenting kids today is different than when our parents parented us. The whole world has changed. And with the influx of social media, so a lot of parents don't know, like you said, you did a lot of personal development, as did I, and with the coaching and just being in the classroom around teenagers. But most parents don't have that. Like not but many parents don't have that. They're not in the teen world, and so they only have their teenager. Like for me, I was in the teen world, so I knew what was going on with teenagers every step of the way. But even with that, one of my kids went off the rails. He needed a coach mentor because he didn't want to listen to us. He didn't want to listen to, we're parents, they don't always want to listen to your parents. The other two went like strived. And so it's just about, yeah, as parents, you need to know what's available. And this is an option. It's not the only option, but it's a powerful, powerful option. And teenagers today don't need to struggle alone, right? You don't have to just let them struggle year after year after year. Some struggling is normal. They're teenagers. They're going to go up and down and other hormones and everything. But when
I
it
love
gets,
that. I love that concept. If you see someone, see a family or someone and they're struggling, don't let them struggle, right? Maybe connect them to you. Maybe just if you're watching this and you see a parent teen going through a struggle, think about connecting them to Renee. Think about how she may be able to help them, because there are ways to go from struggle to striving,
yeah,
to succeeding. And it doesn't have to be very complicated. It doesn't have to be, a long process. I think, Renee, remind me wrong, but it took about three months of kind of mentoring and coaching for your son to kind of
yeah,
turn his life around. 3 months, and his whole life changed.
it did. It in a very short amount of time, you can see big changes with the coaching, mentoring process. And I'd say within definitely 3 months, you'll definitely see change, like almost 100% if the teenager and the parent are engaged. And goes 6 months, and it can be life changing. And I'm literally not just saying that; it can be life altering. The tools you get through the coaching, mentoring process, because you're not just talking, you're actually getting tools and skills that you can carry through your whole entire life. And so it can truly be life altering. And yeah, so I've
Love
seen
that.
it. So
That's
yeah.
so awesome. Thank you so much for sharing your wisdom today. Renee, I know that you have a kind of a free gift for people to look at. Can you tell us more about the free gift?
Yeah, two really, but one you have on your site. The first one is my book. So if you would like a copy of this, just go to the link. I think it's on the screen, and I'll send you a copy of the book. And then the second one is, and just the parenting strategy call. Go to my website if you would like, if your kid's struggling, and let's just chat. It's not a sales call. Let's talk for 60 minutes and see if we can come up with a strategy to help you, help your child, see what you need, see if this is something that you think might fit into your life, and it might not, but just a conversation to see what is possible. And just to have an awareness of other options out there. I think it's just so important. We have to find out what your child needs. It's different for every child. What does your child need?
I love it. Well, Renee, again, thank you for sharing your time with us and helping us understand and expand our awareness of how to better help teenagers and parents. So again, thank you and for being on the show, Renee.
Thank you for having me, Bijal. I appreciate it.
And if you're watching, please, comment, like, share. But more importantly, if you do know a parent and teen that's kind of going through a bit of struggle in their relationship, please connect them to Renee. I'm sure she can be a valuable service to them and maybe help them go from struggle to success. Again, folks, thanks for watching. We'll see you soon. Bye, Renee.
Bye. Thank you.